that is a major piece of the climate and culture within the school. So you hit on three main things, and I think it makes sense for us to hit on these three things.
Welcome to the School Climate and Culture Show. Hosted by Steve, a passionate advocate of positive school climate and culture, together with Megan Deedy. Join us as we explore strategies, share success stories, and provide actionable tips to improve the culture and climate in your school.
Hey everybody, we are back with the School Climate and Culture Show. My name's Steve Buller, also known as Stand Tall Steve.
And I'm Meg Deedy with Integrated.
Yeah, right. And we're back. We're excited about this. And you can see, for those of you that are watching on YouTube or wherever, we are together again, all the way from New Jersey and Wyoming. We are in Athens, Georgia, for the Georgia Association of Elementary School Principals, School Administrators, and Georgia Association of Middle School Principals or Administrators. And I spoke at the opening keynote for that one. It turned out pretty good.
Oh, it was great. Great.
Yeah, good energy, awesome educators that were there. The after lunch speaker was Todd Whitaker.
Yes.
It was good to see Todd.
We could hang out with him for a little while.
Yeah, we did. We went for like a couple of hours before he started speaking. So that was kind of fun to do as well. So it was great. Now, I'm sure all of you can also see we have a guest. Now, I know that with usually we don't have guests, but we have a guest this time because we think we have a topic that's really important that everybody should understand, and we can have some really good dialogue. But I'm happy and excited to bring Allison Gollin from Gollin Educational Services. Welcome, Allison.
Hello. So nice to see you both.
Yeah, we're so happy to have you. Now, Allison and I, we have a past.
Yes, we do.
We do have a past. The past that we had is that when I was a building administrator, she worked in my building. She was on my child study team. And we always kind of kept in touch. And as she moved, continued on, and you're still in a school district. You're still in that building,
yes.
Right? Not the same building though.
Nope. Now I'm in lower elementary.
Yeah, lower elementary. So and she's still doing her thing. But let's just start off. Tell us who you are, what it is that you do, and how do you service the world? What is it all about you?
Yeah. So thank you so much for having me, by the way. So I've been a school social worker and child study team case manager for about 20 years, dating myself a bit. But when I was working with you in that capacity, I was doing pretty much similar to what I'm doing now, which is case managing children with autism spectrum disorder, ADHD, emotional regulation impairments, dyslexia, some medical difficulties as well, learning disabilities and other communication impairments. I also decided within the last year to branch off a little bit on my own and start my business, Gollin Educational Consulting Services, where I provide a number of different options for parents to learn a little bit more about the IEP and 504 navigation process, because it is very complex and it is very dense and it can be very overwhelming. I just give parents a background in how to advocate for themselves and their children within their school district. I also speak with teachers about strengths-based speaking when they have concerns about children and they're trying to communicate with parents to form more of a partnership. And I also speak with physicians, pediatricians mostly, about the 504 and IEP process and how it works within the school setting, because they're usually coming at it from a medical perspective and don't always know all the ins and outs of the school. So
there you go.
It's a little highlight.
Yeah,
what I do.
That's perfect. And I think the reason why I had you come on is because this is the Climate and Culture Show, and that is a major piece of the climate and culture within the school. It's a part of the fabric of the school. It's the environment and the community within a school. So you hit on three main things, and I think it makes sense for us to hit on these three things. Pretty straightforward: your teachers, your parents, and pediatricians, the doctors and such. So let's dive into the parent side first. What would you, in your mind, be one of the top things that parents really need to understand about the whole IEP process, the 504 process? And again, you're in New Jersey, but I'm sure this can be applied anywhere. What are your thoughts on that?
So one of the big things that I see, and I've now spoken with a number of parents around the country, and in New Jersey, just because it's where I am locally. One of the things that I think we end up talking about most is a lot of times parents feel like the district is fighting against them when that really isn't necessarily the situation. Sometimes districts don't necessarily have the funding to provide the things that a child might need, or they're not even educated enough to understand what a child might need. So that's why when I come into play and I can help them understand, like, okay, well, if your child has dyslexia, then they probably need a specific kind of reading program. The district may not even be on board with that yet, but what can we do to try to help the district be on board with that? Other things are just understanding how child study team meetings work and what happens when you walk into a room and you see 10 people sitting around a table. Super overwhelming. So one of the things that I really like to talk about with parents is what it will look like when you walk in, but why you shouldn't be scared and nervous about it, why all of these people are sitting around a table because they want to help your child. It's not to fight against you, it's to help your child. I think that when parents come at that from a positive frame of mind, and then the district also comes at it from a positive frame of mind, I think it just elevates the process and makes it a lot easier to work together. So.
Yeah, I mean, when you say this, it kind of brings me back to a conference that I spoke at. I spoke at a conference. It was a community educator and community conference. And when I was done my speaking, I decided to hop in some of the breakout sessions. And I went into one breakout session. It was a gentleman. He was a parent. And the topic that it wasn't his exact topic, but it was how to go into battle with the district.
Yeah.
And I sat there and it took every ounce of my being not to just like, dude, you're so off. And it was like the whole concept of when you go in that room and they're all in there, they're in there ready to fight. It was just, but you're telling me part of your process is to provide that ease and clarity to the parents so that they don't feel that way when they're going in.
And I think one of the big pieces of that's really interesting that you bring that up, because I've noticed now doing this for the last 11 months, 10 months, that people trust me when they've spoken with me for 5 minutes and I'm outside their school district more than they trust their school district. And I'm pretty much telling them a lot of the things that their school district would.
Yeah, what is that?
And that their school district is coming at it from a positive, good place. It's just, there's this, like this gentleman was saying, like, you're going into battle and you don't even know what your weapons are. Like it doesn't, there doesn't, like weapons don't need to exist. It's that's what they're assuming they need to do. Like we need to armor up and be like a knight about this, but it's really, we are working together in most cases. I'm not going to say in all, because obviously there are times when it is a negative experience, but my hope would be that I'd be able to guide someone through that.
And I like that word that you use, you're guiding. You're not going in there telling them you have to do this or going in to fight for them against the school district, but having that mindset of being a guide, having that positive mindset, going in like, look, I'm going to guide you through this. Let me explain to you what they're really saying and what they're really saying. Almost like they're speaking two different languages, but you kind of translating that in the middle a little bit. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah, I think it is a rainbow. It's not a fractured bridge. Like we all just kind of have to be together. It just takes a little while.
Yeah. You know, Allison, being a third grade teacher right now, I'm wondering if you can shed some light on what maybe as classroom teachers, what we can maybe understand that we don't always see and kind of like our role in that.
Yeah, that's a great question. So one of my favorite things to talk about with the teachers that I've worked with for years now is strengths-based speaking to parents, right? So you have a concern about a child and you have some parents that are right there willing, like, what therapist do I need to call? What tutor? How much should I spend? I'll take them to every doctor. And then you have other parents that are a little more hesitant and resistant because this is their baby and they're not seeing any of these issues at home. So what are you talking about, classroom teacher? Like, you don't know
Yeah.
my child. And the problem is they are two very separate, talk about climate and culture, two very
Yeah.
separate situations, right? Like
Yes.
being
Mhm.
home and having one other child or a few other children in the home versus, you know, like 25 kids in a class. It's
Right.
very
Mhm.
difficult. So some ways you can approach that with a parent as far as that partnership goes, that positive partnership would be when you reach out to a parent initially about a concern, calling them or scheduling something like this, a Zoom or a Google Meet, versus like a long email saying all of these things that you're
Oh,
worried
that
about.
is so intimidating. That is so
Yeah.
scary
Yeah.
to open an email and says your son and then brrr, a whole list.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh my.
and then when you're doing this conversation about what their struggles are, three C's that I always recommend are be concise, be clear, but be compassionate too. So
Mm.
concise, you're summarizing kind of quickly what's going on, because if you use a lot of lingo about the educational acronyms that like parents aren't going to know. So
No.
really concise, but really clear in English or whatever language you speak, but just very concise, clear, to the point, and then that compassion. And compassion, not only in words, but in the body language. I've sat in meetings where teachers are like, you know,
Fold it over, lean back. Oh my
ooh, and that's
gosh.
really
Yeah.
intimidating. But if you're
Hmm.
leaning forward, tilting your head, just making the parent feel like you're holding and hearing all of these things that they might be feeling, it's a lot easier. And
Can
then,
I pause in just real quick with that? I
yeah.
mean, because you really touched a nerve here.
Mhm.
Because I've sat as an administrator, I've sat in so many meetings where, let's say, this might be the initial conversation about the potential of an IEP. The teacher is ticked off because the amount of time has gone by, 90 days or whatever it might be,
Oh,
that they're
yeah.
dealing with this child. And now this child knows what he is doing or she's doing to me. I've been putting up with this for 90 days. We're finally getting to the parent, and the teacher's going in there like, write the IEP yesterday. So they're carrying all this extra baggage. So that compassion, their mindset is, you need to be compassionate to me for dealing
Mhm.
with your kid. And in actuality, I think it needs to go the opposite way, is what you're trying to say a little bit here.
Yeah, that and some teachers don't even know that when a child is in the child study team pipeline, there are a lot of modifications that can
Mm,
begin. And sometimes schools don't realize that, sometimes teachers don't realize that, and parents probably don't realize that at all, that their child has rights once they're signed for child study team evals. But yeah, a lot of times it's like that 90 day, especially if it's some kind of like emotional regulation impairment issue, and
mhm,
everyone's just done on both sides because the parent doesn't want to hear it anymore. Understandably, this is their baby. The
mhm,
teacher is like, oh, every day I go into work, and you know, so
mhm.
it's tough. But my hope would be that there are supports either administratively, supervisors, child study team people, guidance counselors to help out in those situations. But yeah, people are at the end of their rope.
So would it make sense? I mean, I don't know if you've done this or not, to have a coaching session pretty much with administrators and staff on, let's coach you through what the initial type of meeting could be, what number two meeting can be, all those things that you're talking about, just to kind of coach them through. Because I don't know. I mean, if you have an administrator who was never a special ed teacher or wasn't
Right?
or on a
Right.
child study team, maybe nothing against them. Maybe they were a phys ed teacher. Who knows? They were art
Okay,
teacher
they
like
don't,
me.
yeah, you were an
They
art
don't
teacher,
know.
right? Like you
Hmm.
don't know what you don't know. And
Yeah.
you could be like you are a very compassionate administrator, but if you didn't know some of these things, or if you don't have a strong team around you to help out, like where we were, we had a psychologist, a learning consultant, and a social worker all in the same building. A lot of
Mm,
times people don't have that. And yes, I
Right.
think coaching or mentoring through that would be really helpful, especially as the needs are a lot more intensive in schools now, and there's so this push towards inclusion everywhere. And it's
hmm.
just it can be tough for people just to know how to manage these things.
Right.
in a public school setting.
Yeah, and I think I like that compassionate piece, but also the teacher having compassionate to being able to work together with that team, having those people and having that support also on their end is really something to hold on to. And
And
maybe even knowing the right questions to ask.
Oh, the right
oh
questions to
yeah,
ask.
knowing
Uh-oh, here we go.
I'm going to write that down.
Yeah,
Knowing the
yeah.
right questions to ask. Right. And another thing that I think about too, and I do like a lot of times before a meeting, I have a pre-meeting just to let the teachers know, like, hey, this is what we want to discuss going in. One of the things that I talk about a lot is no language of absolutes. It's not like he's never able to do this and oh, she always does this.
Yes.
Like, is that right? Is that true?
Never,
Do they never
always.
and always? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I'll fall on my sword right here. I made that mistake once. A teacher came to me and said a student out at recess was quote unquote terrorizing all of the other children. And I repeated that to the parent thinking like, oh, well, no, you'll understand what I'm talking about because we've had that conversation before that your child is high impact and all those things. And oh, he was so offended. And I felt so badly. I didn't mean it like terrorizing and
Yeah.
God forbid, like really hurting people. I just meant he's running after everyone and scaring them and, but
Right.
you can't use
Right.
language of absolutes because then people will immediately shut down and become defensive, rightly so.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially again, you got to remember, these are their babies. These are
These are
their
the babies.
children. Yeah. Even if you're dealing with, let's say, the child is 15, 16 years old and they're in the IEP meeting because they're over 13. Nonetheless, that's still somebody's baby.
That's
Even
somebody's
if you
baby.
think it's the parent who is not doing their best or not doing what they're supposed to, it's still their baby. And that's some of that stuff they have to keep in mind.
And then another thing to keep in mind too for teachers is there are some children that have parents that will fight tooth and nail for them and are educated and understand and go down those rabbit holes and Google everything. But then there are other children whose parents either don't have the means, don't understand, or don't really know. And so, this is a child that's probably not been given some of the things that they need from the home setting too. And
you got to keep all that in mind. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I know the last piece that you were talking about, you said you work directly with the parents and helping them guide them through, ease their fears, get them the understanding of where the school's coming from, working with the teachers to have them have a better understanding of that compassion and understanding being concise. But the last part, which is a little different, which can really influence quite a bit what's happening in the school climate and culture, are the physicians.
Yes.
This is something that's different. So talk to me about how you work directly with the physicians.
Yeah. So over the years, this kept coming up over and over that I would receive letters from very well-meaning, well-intentioned doctors saying this child has diagnosis of ADHD, they need an IEP, or they need a 504 plan, right? So even though I'm not like directly involved in 504, I still work closely with guidance and we work through all of those things. But the problem ends up being that if there is no academic impact for the child, and the parent is coming in with a letter from the doctor, and the doctor is a very trusted, almost member of the family at that point, right? Because going to that person since your child's an infant, then they might be guiding the parent wrong inadvertently, not meaning to at all. But there are a lot of steps between child gets diagnosis or school calls to say that there's something going on with child and child has direction towards an IEP or a 504. One of the things that I've noticed that physicians don't know about, which you wouldn't, is intervention and referral services. So INRS, which is building support committee, which many people in education
different states
know
call it
about.
different things. Yeah.
Correct. Right. Building support committee, INRS, whatever it is. But they don't always realize, doctors, that a child has to go through that many times. I guess depends on the district, depends on the state, in order to collect data, in order to then back up why an evaluation might need to move forward. So it's just going in and explaining that the process is potentially a lot longer than just like, here's my letter, I'm going to sign a thing and I'm going to get my kid an IEP. It's not necessarily
What are you hearing back from pediatricians, physicians, doctors when you're sharing this with them? Are they like, wow, didn't know, or I'm a doctor, deal with it? I mean, I don't know what to say. I mean,
Yeah, and so the physicians that I've been speaking to seem to know a lot about what an IEP is, what a 504 is. 504 is accommodations, IEP is modifications, special education versus regular education. They know those things. They don't really know that middle part, which is that intervention and referral services, or RTI, the things that we would do at a building level, either tier 1 or tier 2, in order to then make the case to go to tier 3. So I did a whole like triangular thing recently where I just explained the levels, and they said, oh, we actually had no idea. And then it's interesting because they, in that same practice, they were talking about neuropsychologicals. A lot of times children are referred for neuropsychs, which are these like 35-page documents. And they say they're so helpful, they're amazing. And I was thinking about it because a lot of times child study team evaluations will show exactly the same things from the educational perspective, and they don't cost $4,000.
Imagine that. Wow.
But neuropsychs do, and I realized the doctors were looking at it more from a medical perspective.
Of
Yeah,
course.
it probably does give you so much more information medically than the child study team evals. So that was kind of like
but your evals are coming from a learning standpoint. You know, how are they're learning, whereas there is like, what's the physical changes are happening to the body and the mind, and how is that manifesting itself outwardly, as opposed to learning algebra 1, or understanding spelling words or whatever it might be in that aspect. So that's interesting. Wow. Well, I've been educated.
I know. That was great.
I know. And truthfully, again, this goes back to the climate and culture of a school, because a lot of this misunderstanding, misinformation, different messages that the teachers and the parents and the physicians are sending back and forth can directly impact the climate and culture within a school in so many different ways. And having that clarity is important, hugely. Wow. So with that, how do people get a hold of you? How do people find you, Allison?
Yep. So I have a website, GollinEdConsulting.com. So it's GOLLIN edconsulting.com. My email address is allison@GollinEdConsulting.com. Yeah, but my website is certainly where you can find me, and I love talking to people. So
there you go. Awesome. And you work across the country in multiple different, like everywhere. Well, that's perfect. Well, hey, this was great.
This was wonderful.
Well, thank you so much for having me and allowing me to speak with you both.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Thanks so much for being on the Stand Tall Leadership Show. Oh, wait a second.
Nope, we changed that.
You changed it. It's a climate and culture. I knew I was going to do that one of these times.
It's okay.
It used to be the Stand Tall Leadership Show. It is the School Climate and Culture Show. Thank you so much for joining us for that. You guys, if you get more information in the show notes from Allison and how to get a hold of her. And you guys have a good one.
Yes.
Right. And we're going to do another episode where we'll be together. I think we're doing another recording.
Yep. We'll be in Chicago together.
We'll be in Chicago together
to talk with Integrated.
Yes. We get to Integrated, or your group, about what it is that you do and how you make some things happen. And then this coming weekend, in a few days, we have Within Our Ranks. Within Our Ranks retreat in San Antonio. Allison was a member of Within Our Ranks, went through all the training and everything like that. Just real quick, I'm putting you on the spot. What is your thoughts of the retreat that we had in Philly, Within Our Ranks retreat?
It was absolutely incredible. My husband had asked me, because I live out in South Jersey, oh, do you want to just come home at night instead of staying there? And I said, no, I really feel like I need to be immersed in it. I can't like come out of that mindset. I'm so glad that I did that, because I just felt so supported and seen, and the information that we all received from you both was incredible. And I felt like it really helped focus what I want to do next with my business. So I recommend it to anyone and everyone. And I have recommended it to a lot of people.
Hey, there you go. I thank you so much. That was an awesome little commercial. I appreciate that. Yeah. So we're doing our next one is in San Antonio in a couple of days. We have 9 amazing people coming in to help them and move them through the process. And I know you said before, you love when they come in, they don't know anything.
They don't. And then by Sunday, one of our past attendees said, I finally feel unstuck. And I just can't let that go. It's so powerful to watch the beginning and the end.
Yeah, to make that happen. So I'm excited about it. We're going to make that happen. And we are currently taking registrants for the January one.
Yep.
Which is going to be in Atlanta, Georgia. So we're getting people to register for the next one. So we're excited about that as well. All right.
Exciting.
It is. Okay. Well, hey, once again, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Allison.
All right.
Appreciate the conversation. All right. And you guys take it easy.
Have a great night.
Bye.